Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. My name is Randy Bean, author, speaker, and organizer and moderator of many CDO, CDAO panels, and a contributor to Forbes, Harvard Business Review, MIT Sloan Management Review, and author of Fail Fast, Learn Faster, Lessons in Data-Driven Leadership in an Age of Disruption, Big Data, and AI. And I'm also an innovation fellow with Paris-based global consultancy Wavestone. I'm pleased today to be joined by Scott Taylor. Scott is well known in the data and analytics field. He's known as the data whisperer. Scott is a partner at Infocepts and is an avid business evangelist and advisor on data management for leading companies. His many accolades include Data IQ Top 100 Influencer, CDO Magazine Leading Data Consultant, and Analytica, Who's Who in Data Management. And he's also the author of Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling to Data Management. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Randy. Great to see you.
Nice to see you this morning or today. So we'll begin with part one of our discussion to set the stage for our conversation today. Scott, can you speak about the strategic why and technical how of data management? Can you explain what you mean when you use these terms?
As I mentioned, I focus really on the why. Why using data and analytics is important at a enterprise, rather than the technical implementation and how. You need both. There's a balance there. But what I find in my work, and you mentioned my book, Telling Your Data Story, a way to help data leaders create and craft a narrative that bridges the gap between the worlds of the business and what they do with data. A lot of the issues I find with data leaders is that they don't explain why it's important. And when you talk to senior executives who are non-data folks, when you talk to senior leadership, when you're looking for stakeholder engagement, when you're looking for funding, people want to know why it's important. And a lot of times our data folks just jump right into how they're going to do it. And it gets way too technical. I think that puts off a lot of the business side, and it keeps them from understanding the real value that we all know data people can bring to an organization.
Yeah, well said. That's something that I encounter often, particularly that business leaders, they don't understand the jargon, they feel intimidated by it, and often they say, we're the leaders of the business, we're the ones who bring in the revenue, we're the ones who drive the profits ultimately, and we feel that, sometimes they're speaking down to us and they're smarter than we are. So I think it's important to bridge that gap.
Or there's a lot of confusing technical terminology. We're going to use the latest analytics graph hub fabric mesh, and they just don't care about that kind of thing. I've spent more than my share of time with CEOs, and they do want to know why it's important. They might stop you right in the middle and just go, why are you telling me this?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why is this on my plate? Why are you in my office? I don't want to know how you're going to implement this. I want to know why it's important. Then you shift into the how. I'm not suggesting at all that you don't know how to do it. You got to deliver. But there's that balance, as I said. Understand the why, be able to articulate the rationale for the investment, for the culture change, for the efforts that all of us are pleading for organizations to support what we do in data and analytics.
Yeah, one of my most satisfying experiences watching an executive sometimes grill a technical or data leader who's very well meant, but they'll say, can you explain what you mean? Then the person tries to explain, but they don't articulate it in business terms. And the executive sits there and says, I'm sorry, but I just don't get it, but I'll try again. And sometimes they're not able to bridge that gap. So I think the importance of storytelling in business terms is critical. Let me share some data from a survey that I've been conducting for about a dozen years of senior data leaders, all C executives from Fortune 1000 companies. And, I would love your feedback on what you think the takeaways are from this. We asked, and this is in the context of progress on data and analytics initiatives. We asked, are you managing data as a business asset? Only 39.5% said yes. The vast majority said no. Have you created a data-driven organization? Only 23.9% said yes, and 76, 77% said no. Have you established a data culture? Paltry 20.6% said yes, and nearly 80% said no. What does this tell you about the state of data in business today?
It tells me that more than half of what we're trying to do isn't working. That's what people are perceiving. And it's so frustrating and such a struggle because data is not new, despite all the, data is the new whatever, oil, tofu, bacon, whatever people want to say. But if you've been in data long enough, and I think both of us probably go back pre-2K in our data experience, it just continues with this struggle of not being able to break through and get an organization to truly support at that foundational, structural, cultural level the power and value of what data and analytics can bring to an organization. And I think a lot of it has to do, or a good portion of it has to do with the part of the world I work in, which is the storytelling part. Again, if you're not able to change the culture, which sounds, I always wonder a little bit when we come in there and say, well, you need to change the culture to work with data. That's a big ask, especially from a group that isn't necessarily as well oriented or recognized within an organization, being the data and analytics group. That's a big thing to ask for. But we know that once you start to leverage data and put it in regular business processes, when you're trying to scale, when you're trying to get people access to more modern systems, when you're trying to move things from manual to automated, data is the answer. So it's disappointing. But it's probably very indicative to the state that we're in. And it doesn't matter what the newest, latest technology is. These are cultural, emotional, almost things that we're trying to struggle with. And a way to help turn people around is to have them understand it better. And the way to have people understand stuff better is to tell a better story. So I keep coming back to the same kind of approach, but it doesn't surprise me, those numbers, but they are a little bit disappointing if you think about it in terms of all the work that a lot of us have been doing for so long.
So to your point there about storytelling, can you talk about why storytelling is so important when it comes to bridging the gap between data leaders and business leaders?
That gap is very much a conceptual gap. It's a lack of understanding, and you're not going to be able to break through if you show your full data model or here's the latest modern data stack, or again, back to the technical stuff. And storytelling, I've been doing storytelling, as I'm sure you have, since it was 2 words, probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space still today. And it's always positioned as a soft skill. And we both know it's pretty hard to do this soft skill. And it's something I really reinforce with data leaders, because to be good at data, you've got to be highly technical. You've got to be an analyst. You've got to, understand the technology. You've got to understand analytics, statistics, data science, all these other things. So STEM and a lot of data folks come up from that part of the education process. And by design, they don't necessarily spend as much time on the storytelling, on those soft skills, on communication, and so on. And so putting that narrative together, if you want to be a strong leader, no matter what part of the organization you're in, you've got to be able to communicate. It's as simple as that. And that's how humans get things done, is to communicate with each other. So you just go really back to these basic human attributes of being able to listen to somebody, understand what their challenges are, be able to articulate back to them how what you can do will benefit them. And that's something we miss a lot of times too, right? A data person will come and say, look, this newfangled thing I just discovered, I figured out, let's just shove it into the organization, versus turning it around and waiting to find the opportunity that the business brings to you, that solution will actually enable and help solve. But the process is, got to be a little more organic that way. People have to come to you in a way to understand, all right, now I see how this works. Now I see how this can help me, versus here's a bunch of stuff I want you to do.
Well said. And as I mentioned at the outset, and as you know, I do a lot of writing, and my motto is always to keep it simple, or keep it simple to the greatest extent possible. And sometimes say, when people ask me, I say that, when I'm writing an article, I write with a Fortune 1000 CEO in mind. And therefore I try to write at the third grade level. And they say, oh, that's so like funny, ha ha ha. I'm like, I couldn't be more serious, unless you can, bring it down to a level that everybody understands. You're really speaking to a selected few as opposed to your target audience. And you make a great point about listening as well, and the importance of listening, because one of the benefits of virtual as opposed to live is when I'm in any conversation with anyone, I just continually write down in front of myself, listen. If I start to like think ahead or my mind starts to move away, I just say, listen to what's being said. Thank you so much for your time today. Scott Taylor, partner with Infocepts, author, performer, data whisperer. Thanks again. And thank you to CDO Magazine for making today's discussion possible. Have a great day, everyone.